Therapist to Buddhist in You, the podcast where we embark on a transformative journey of self-discovery and collective growth. I'm your host, Luke DuBois, a therapist with a passion for all things related to health and wellness. I'm thrilled to introduce our co-hosts, the embodiment of serenity. I change that up every time. Zalmal.
Yeah, I'm thrilled to be here too. This is Zal.
Zal brings his profound wisdom and compassionate nature as a Buddhist practitioner to our enlightening adventure. Together we delve into a fascinating intersections of psychology, spirituality, and all things health and wellness. We hope you're ready to explore the depths of human experience and unlock practical insights that can enhance your well-being. So join us as we engage in thought-provoking discussions, share personal stories, and connect with guests who will impart their own profound wisdom. Our aim is to provide you with valuable tools, strategies, and perspectives that can empower you on your own path to self-discovery and growth. Through our heartfelt conversations and shared experience, we'll navigate the complexities of life, uncovering the secrets to holistic well-being. So whether you're seeking mental clarity, spiritual nourishment, or practical guidance, a therapist, Buddhist in You is your trusted companion. So tune in, and as always, please like, follow, subscribe, whether it's a bell, a plus, we're on YouTube now. Please do so that way we can keep growing our community and share with other people. So today, Zal, we're talking about healing with horses and the benefits of equine therapy. We're going to explore the incredible world of equine therapy and its benefits for mental health, trauma, and so much more. Horses have been used for centuries as working animals, but they've also become recognized as powerful healers in recent years. Today we'll dive deep into the topic with an expert. We'll discuss equine therapy, how it works, and the specific benefits it can have for individuals who have experienced trauma or are struggling with mental health issues. So whether you're a horse lover or just curious about alternative forms of therapy, you won't want to miss this episode. So today we're bringing on Courtney Jones. She is a highly respected and experienced mental health and trauma therapist based in Glen Burnie, Maryland. With over a decade of experience working in the field, Courtney is a trusted voice in trauma therapy. She is dedicated to helping individuals heal and grow from different life experiences. As the Bay Area counseling and consultation owner, Courtney provides services to support her clients, including individual and group therapy, trauma treatment, and equine and animal-assisted therapy. Courtney's commitment to excellence in her field is reflected in her impressive credentials, which include master's degree in social work from the University of Maryland School of Social Work, as well as a certified clinical trauma professional and a certified equine partnered psychotherapist and learning facilitator. I believe I said that right. Through her work with Bay Area counseling and consultation, Courtney has helped countless individuals find healing and empowerment through equine therapy. She passionately advocates for this powerful approach to mental health and well-being, which is why we asked her to join today. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Welcome. Thanks for joining us.
So very glad that you are here today, Courtney. So equine therapy, do we go big or small first? I guess we'll go, how does it work in general? And then we'll fine tune it.
Well, go ahead and saddle up. No pun intended. How does it work? That is a really awesome question. So, Equine-Assisted psychotherapy in partnership with equines is really how it works. So I think the mindset is going into a relationship with equines instead of trying to use them as, tools. So that's one of the biggest platforms that I share with patients is like, this is a partnership. So if I were to have another colleague in the room, to help with your mental health, this is kind of my colleague for the day. This is our colleague. So this is the other therapist that's going to be in the room. Same thing with my canine companion, Leona. It's the exact same thing when we do sessions together. She's a partner. So Lucky and I partner together.
So it sets it up for, I guess, a deeper connection and not just this thing, this animal. It's a relationship.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
All equine work is relational. 100%.
I imagine, I'm thinking about my own experiences with equine therapy, the knowing that and believing that, but not necessarily comfortable with that relationship at first.
I know the therapist in me wants to say, tell me more about that. Yeah, I think that's really common. I think a lot of times people are really intimidated by just the general size of equines, which is something to work with for sure. But at the end of the day, it's really breaking down the nuances to what equines bring to that relationship. And simply put, we're predators and they're prey. They are herd animals. We pull one out of their herd to come and partner with us. It's very intentional work that they are also contributing to, because they could choose not to work. They could choose to cry, call out for their herd. They could buck, they could run away. But they are also part of that equation. They want to participate. It's cool.
Yeah, I was really looking forward to this conversation. And I have a lot of questions and also reflecting on my own experience too. But first thought that comes to mind as we're starting the conversation is about how healing happens, when there is a connection, but also the opposite is true when I'm closed off. So I'm curious how that process is like when you're helping a client or in your own experience too, that, an animal does not talk, but then there is the existence, the energy, life force behind it, and then you can connect to it. And I have a very limited experience, but like they really reflect your emotional state, and which is cool because I don't have that access to myself sometimes, So I want to know more about that. Yeah.
I love that you're bringing that up because that's how it is sometimes. Equine-assisted therapy has taught me so much about myself and what I bring into the session and how I am too. And simply put, the reason that equines mirror our emotions is because they have what we have, mirror neurons. What they lack, which is kind of like a gift, is the prefrontal cortex to distinguish why they're feeling the way that they're feeling. So they literally mirror what we bring into the session. And so for someone who is closed off, our equine partner is going to mirror that back. So they might not engage. They might have their back to you the whole time. You might walk over to them. They might walk away. But if you're open, your equine mirrors that as well and comes over to you in partnership. It's fascinating stuff. And it's amazing to watch it unfold too. And you can talk about the power of it all day, but until you experience it, it's a whole different, world.
Yeah, that's a powerful opening, because that model is true for life too, right? Like I would think that why are all these things happening to me? Life is happening to me, but then it's actually a reflection of what's happening inside. So I love that because I did have an experience with some horses while I was in treatment this last time. And it was we did it with a group, and it's crazy how the same horse reflects differently to like 5 different people, and it wasn't about the rope, but it's more about the way we were guided as that. Pay attention, kind of like communicate with the horse, and then she will follow the lead. It's not about the rope, but more the intention behind it,
It's like there's no playing poker, or if you are playing poker, it'll play it back.
Yes. And we have a lot of folks I have the privilege of working with, and that's something that we get to see acting out. Like it goes live with that, where someone will tell us one thing, but that's not how they're feeling. And so the horse reflects back what is really going on in that intention, and that gives us a really great platform to discuss what's going on. I have a good example of this. Actually, we were doing a group, and this modality is relatively new, to me. So I'm still so much, a teacher and a student all the time. But there were 2 participants and myself, and the horse was kind of just walking away and really just not wanting, to engage, kind of shifty. And the other equine specialist said, "Who's nervous here?" And the 2 people were like, "Not me, not me." And I was. I had to walk away because this horse was really mirroring my energy and go take a couple deep breaths before I rejoined, that pod of folks.
Wow. So you talk about mirror neurons, that we mirror things as children, we mirror our family. So talk about that energy connection, and I don't know how you explain that, but obviously the horses pick up on that. How?
Oh, man. Okay. So I guess the best way I can describe it is just to talk a little bit about equine biology. Okay. So equines have a very great sense of smell. They've been used, to seek out water, for centuries. That's, one of the jobs that they had. Real quick little sidebar too. Equines can also help find people that are lost. They can do search and rescue. They have the same amount of olfactory, senses. They have the same amount of color cones as canines do too, which is really interesting.
That's cool.
But the most interesting fact is equines are huge animals. They are about 50 million times larger than a fly that will land on them, but they can feel that. So to put that into perspective for us, it would be like a dandelion seed falling on my hand and me being able to feel that. We can't. And so just think about the energy that we emit as humans and their sensitivity to that. So anytime we go into a session, anytime before I ride, anytime before I greet an equine and ask, consent to come into their space, anytime before I have a session, no matter what we're going to be talking about, we try to center our energy to be respective of how sensitive they are. Isn't that amazing?
It takes me back to my first equine experience where we're in the pen.
Yeah, you can use that.
And there was two of us in there, and the horse was by the fence, and we were on the back middle, and the equine therapist just said, well, why don't you try to ground yourself and take a couple breaths? And the person I was in there with, we both did it in a matter of 15 seconds. Just did that exhale and allowed myself to be present or grounded. Boop, that horse came right over.
Every time. We did a group not too long ago, and it was an over-the-fence observation, and I asked the equine specialist if we could partner with a couple equines that maybe didn't always get along and just see how, our group members felt about observing the interactions. And, some of these equines were really trying to move the other one's feet. And I guess in equine talk, they were like, I'll see you outside or something. Mm-hmm. And that evoked a physiological effect in the group members. They were talking about how they were feeling anxious. They could relate it, to their own relationships in the house or with their, colleagues or family members. So we did a meditation and we centered ourselves, talked about slowing down our heartbeat, how that feels in our body. And as soon as we did that, all three of those equines that were, getting on each other in the field came all the way over from where they were to where we were and started eating grass. All three of them. That's that energy exchange that they can buy into. They're like, I want that, and came over and reinforced it for us. And now we're in this symbiotic, emotional relationship.
Hey listeners, we've got something extraordinary to share, a chance to reshape your journey no matter where you are. You're familiar with Zalmal's insights on our podcast, but there's more. Through the Recovery Collective, he offers life, mindfulness, recovery coaching, and meditation groups guiding you toward a fulfilled and mindful existence, no matter your location. Zal's journey from a Burmese Buddhist novice to a skilled practitioner equips him with timeless wisdom and contemporary strategies. Whether you're navigating life's shifts, seeking clarity, or pursuing self-awareness, Zal's coaching serves as a compass guiding you toward success. The best part? Zal's approach centers on your growth and empowerment. He equips you with tools to tap into your inner strengths for continuous evolution no matter where you are. Ready to take that next step in your personal growth journey? Connect with Zalmal and the Recovery Collective at 240-813-8135 from anywhere in the world. Investigating in your journey reaps immeasurable rewards. Let Zalmal guide you toward resilience, clarity, and empowerment no matter where life finds you. Now, let's transition back into our conversation. Stay tuned, stay curious, and keep your journey growing. Because equines, horses, don't have that cerebral cortex, the forward thinking, the rational, the logic, reason, because they're so, in my words, tell me if you agree, hypersensitive to touch, to energy, to emotions. Are they always a grounded creature, or because they don't have that prefrontal cortex, they're always in the present, they don't need to help me understand that?
I think you're pretty close to it. And okay. I'm still learning too. It's like evolving in my life and practice. But horses are like vigilante. They're vigilant, right? So they're always scanning the environment, always, for safety. Am I going to die? Yes or no? And once you get no, you're not going to die, right? Then they can really, be in the moment. But because they don't have a prefrontal cortex, they don't come with all the logic and the fun stuff that we as humans bring with us. There's no continual filters. There's nothing about, like my programming from growing up Do you know what I mean?
Totally.
And so it's just this constant neuro, connectivity and understanding of the world. Am I safe? Yes. Cool. Then what's happening here? Am I safe? Awesome. Let me keep doing what I'm doing. And they do this within the herd too, which is really fascinating. So equines co-regulate, their herd animals, their prey animals, right? So it's all about safety. They have these really integral ways of like knowing who is who in the herd. But they will actually like all sit and eat grass, but each member of the herd will keep a lookout for where they are within the herd too. So it's like constantly being alert, but also being calm.
So as humans, if we're in that fight or flight response continuously, it can be looked at as trauma. But because they don't have that prefrontal cortex and they're always co-regulating, that they're not in that trauma response like humans?
So that's a really good question, and I don't think I'm sophisticated enough to know the nuances to answer that.
Just fascinating.
But what I do know is that their amygdala is always on.
Okay.
But the prefrontal cortex of like the rationale and the logic isn't there. So it's really just like, am I dying? No? Cool.
Okay.
Am I dying? No? Cool.
That's amazing.
Yeah, what you said earlier about how sensitive they are, how receptive they are, is awesome, but also can be very overwhelming and scary at the same time for somebody.
We're human.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, tell me more about that, because I deal with that all the time with patients that come, to the farm.
Yeah, because that emphasized the point that we're all interconnected. That my sense of self, of like, oh, this is me, as if I can hide, So that's really healing, because I'm being exposed to my own emotions by seeing how this horse is reacting to me. So it makes me think of that. But also, like, I heard these stories when I was growing up because there are people who meditate a lot. And then when you're describing about how sensitive they are to the size of their body and also to a fly. So I've heard some stories where people would go onto retreats and then they would meditate and they get to this place where they will be meditating and they can feel one of their hair on their eyebrow fall off. They are aware of that,
amazing.
So for us, it's more like going back to it, right? We might have that ability, but we have all these programming and opinions and like we're kind of numb from it, although we have that capability of sensitivity to be aware of another human being or to our own feelings, So it makes me think of that, how much of a beautiful process this is to go within and uncover.
There's a quote, I can't remember who said off the top of my head, but something along the lines of, if you don't like the way your horse is behaving, go look in the mirror. If you don't like the way your horse is acting, go look in the mirror. And it's true.
I think why this conversation has me so juiced up, energized, whether it's therapy, classical Chinese medicine, meditation, equine is a wonderful way of, even if we avoid awareness or consciousness or denial, that equine brings these things up, even if you are trying to hide it or subconsciously trying to just protect ourselves. Mm-hmm. Equine kind of gives this insight with this horse to be able to do so.
Yeah, it's cool. Powerful stuff.
Yeah, it's cool.
Are there also like particular ways to treat them or to keep them healthy, or do they also get trained? You mentioned earlier about like how much they want to participate in this healing process as well.
Yeah. So there are so many different modalities for equine-assisted psychotherapy. And the way that I've been trained was through a course of Awakening with Equines, which is all, grounded in spiritual psychology. So when I say things like they want to do the work, I'm coming from a place of looking at this work as like they're the shamans of the mammal world. And I'm just allowing them to kind of facilitate with me along the process, which clinically kind of goes against my training. But because you can see the power of working with an equine, it's just magical. But to answer your question, the farm that I partner with, Nicker's Retreat, they do an outstanding job caring for their equine partners. And every horse has a role in a job. And Lisa, the farm owner, she's really great at ensuring that her equines don't get burnt out from the work, because there is so much energy exchange all the time. And I've actually found that some patients are not a good fit for my equine partner because their energy is too much. And we have to do a lot of groundwork to re-regulate him because it kind of carries it with him. which is fascinating because they don't have a lot of that, like, they don't have the memory like we do where it's categorized. Do you know what I mean? Where you can't be like, oh, it was this person that made me feel this way. But it was like so much energy is so confusing to his system, it gets overwhelmed. So to answer your question, any horse that has a horsenality, and that's the term for it, that can be social and do this work can, but you have to be really mindful that they're sentient beings and they're not here for us to objectify them or work them. We have to treat them like we would ourselves. You know what I mean? Or like a best friend, and read their cues and make sure that their basic needs are met and also their emotional needs are met. I hope that answered your question.
Yes.
Yeah.
So talk more about the type of training, the spiritual aspect. Do you connect that? Is it parallel to energy? Take us down that road.
Yeah, I definitely do. And it's really where the patient wants to go, with it, for sure. I just know from, my professional and personal experience that I don't know how else to explain it, as though that equines have more mirror neurons than any other mammal. I mean, the way
Explain that to our listeners.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. I mean, just the way that their brain is built, that in and of itself sets them apart. They can receive, read, and change their behavior based off of our behavior. No other mammal really, has that same kind of relationship with the way that their brain is developed. It's like no prefrontal cortex means they're not logically doing it, that it's this energy. It's so spiritual if you think about it.
I often say emotions are spiritual. It kind of aligns with what we're talking about. By mirror neurons, for the listeners, are you meaning that they can literally mirror behaviorally, emotionally? Is that what you mean?
Emotionally, yeah. I'm not a neuroscientist by...
Neither of us are.
Okay, by any stretch of the imagination. But mirror neurons are the neurons in our brain that set our motor neurons up to receive information. Mirror neurons are popping off right now. It's how we as humans can pick up on each other's feelings. That's what makes maybe us good, practitioners, is that's where the empathy is. I can feel it when you experience it, right? Yeah. And then I can watch someone do something, can watch you pick up that cup and drink it, and my brain is going to receive that information as if I was doing it. Horses learn the same way. They have those neurons. So they can watch an elder equine load into a trailer. Their brain will fire the same exact way as if it was actually happening for them. And with that observation, they can learn that behavior, which is so gnarly. Yeah. But without that prefrontal cortex, it doesn't categorize it like our brain does, which is good and bad. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's really fascinating and also puzzling for me too, is that, in human communication, apparently it's like less than 20, more than 80% or around there is nonverbal. So like the words that we're using is very limited. The rest is all communicated through energy or facial expression, body gesture. So it's really crazy how we belong to different species, but at the same time, horses can pick up. So it's probably not what they're seeing, like with our gesture, but it's more about what they're feeling from us, So when you talk about mirror neurons, like it's not just about how I am standing to the horse, but it's more about how am I emotionally, and it is being mirrored to them, which is not visible. Emotions are not really visible in its raw original form. So it's really fascinating. Yeah, tell me more about how they are trained, or how do they pick it up?
I think it's part of their
Essence.
genetics. Yeah, essence is the best word for it. I don't think that they're trained, and there probably are other EAP providers that might say differently, but I don't think that they're trained to read emotion. I think that they can be trained to utilize a sense, but not this sense. I think their neuroception, like our neuroception, reads, reads things, but it's a very unique relationship, which is why riding is such a, profound sport, because horses and riders, they really can become like one unit. The brains of the rider and the equine are speaking to each other through proprioception, through breathing, through connectivity. So I think equines can be trained on the fundamentals of how to have manners, how to have boundaries, how to ride, but in terms of being trained like we are clinically, that's not in my experience how it's done. It's more of this like spiritual component of their makeup that allows for them to be these, shamans of the animal world, essentially.
Yeah. Awesome healers, practitioners.
Mm-hmm.
They're setting up the conditions as much as we hope to as facilitators. Yeah, very cool. Knowing these things and you being a conduit with the horse, what are some of your goals as a facilitator with these horses? I guess it depends. I imagine most people that are coming to equine don't say, I want to work on this. Like they might in a sit down office for therapy. I imagine it can be emotional regulation, trauma work, addiction work, trust. How do you determine where the horse, and where you're going with this dance of constant information, and you do have a cerebral cortex? How do you do it?
I love that question because this is what equine-assisted psychotherapy has taught me the most about myself at this stage of my journey is we just got to let that shit go. Because I will develop.
I just got chills. Like it was the ultimate, like, let it go. Let the magic happen.
I mean, I'm very science-based as an individual, but working in partnership with the equines has opened up this other side of me so much more. But I develop program. We have a treatment plan with patients. We have an intention, a thought of what we want, to work on. But 9 times out of 10, it doesn't always work out the way that we want it to. It's whatever comes up. It's whatever is gifted, to us in session. It's whatever is being mirrored back.
I feel like I say this almost every other episode, where almost every episode somehow we talk about spirituality. It always gets back to some form of energy or spirituality. And I often use the analogy of setting up the conditions. You can turn the soil, you can plant the seed, you can water it, you can wait for the right season. But there's other variables that we have no control over. But we do our best to set up the conditions, and then somehow that energy force does the rest or doesn't do the rest. So trust. I imagine trusting your process, learning about yourself, trusting these horses, which probably became easier for you than other things, I'm imagining. But where's trust in this whole thing with you?
Oh, it's big. It is so big. I want to talk about maybe just my equine partner for a second,
Please.
too, Lucky. Lucky is, I think he's 18 and a half hands. He's huge. He's 1,200 pounds. He's a Havarian retired sport horse. An injury took him out of his game, which is something I always share with patients because the trajectory of his life changed. He has low attention span. If I were to humanize some of his characteristics, I would say he's mildly ADHD. Yep. He's amazing, but we can't work together without trust. He is huge. He could kick me and break my leg if he wanted to, and just me being, a predator and him a prey, he already trusts me. We have to do a lot of work outside of session to continue to build that trust. And it's different every day. I have to meet him where he's at. And then not just that, we have to have a relationship with the patient and they have to trust the process. I mean, there's nothing that's going to occur if there's not trust between us, him and myself. And we work hard at that too. It's not just, he really showed me that earlier this year with the holidays, changes of the seasons. My bonding time with him just got skewed. So I'd just show up for session and he'd be like, that's not what we do. I haven't seen you all week. Like, where are my apples? Where's my time in? Where's the bonding? And that really showed me that, right? I have to be true to what we've agreed to do together.
I don't think I'm going on a limb when I'm making the assumption that this is probably one of the deepest relationships you have in this world.
It's interesting. Yeah, it is. I joke sometimes with the farm owner. I'm like, we're like a married couple and we have to relearn how we speak to each other and how we talk,
Mm-hmm. And he brings that up. He brings it to the surface.
Well, let me know for sure. And I've had to really make sure that when I go, I spend time with him beforehand, and I don't have to always ensure that I'm coming from a place of namaste when I'm on the farm, but I have to be honest with him about where I'm at. Gotcha. Because that disconnect of energy for me will throw off the session. So if I'm just like, hey, my day's been a little wild. It's not you, it's me. We'll get through it. He can receive that, and we can work through it because he knows he can trust what I'm saying. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's wild.
I know you mentioned there's no like typical path for anybody, specifically, but how does that healing journey look like in general? Because my guess is that when I'm in, usually the suffering comes from not being present with the present moment, because I'm stuck in the past or I'm worried about the future. But when I see an animal reflecting my own emotions, I am brought to the present moment, which healing can start that way. But how is that? So yeah, walk me through the process in general of a patient coming in, very broken, trauma, how does that healing process start happening through that connection with equines?
The animals bring to us a gift of unconditional love and lack of judgment. And that in and of itself starts a really beautiful relational experience. And most of the time, folks that are coming in for trauma work, there's some kind of attachment wound somewhere along the line, no matter what the trauma was, it's an attachment wound. And so having that experience with any of even my canine colleague or my equine partner, that in and of itself starts the journey. And a lot of times with that relational experience and that attachment and that caretaking and that nurturing, we can transfer that into human relationships. And some modalities might say that there's a specific way that they do it. But for me, we go in with an intention, we see where the work goes, and then we process, afterwards of what came up. And I have a really interesting patient I've been working with for a while on complex grief, and she has equine experience. So for her, she had already bought into, the process. Like she wanted to be out in the farm. There was so much beautiful energy, just really powerful. And our equine partner always showed a disorganized kind of reaction with her. And what's going on? Nothing. I'm okay. I'm sad, whatever. But the way that he would interact was just, there was this disconnect, and I couldn't understand what was happening until most recently she came back and she's like, I've been faking it. I'm just hoping I could make it. I was trying to fake it till I made it. And I'm like, thank you for sharing that. That makes sense. That makes so much sense over the last couple of weeks when we've been partnering with Lucky, why he's appeared to be off or restless. And he just started licking and chewing. And for equines, that's a sign of relaxation. And so then now our work can begin in a different way.
Processing part has to be the coolest because it gives it to you. It's there. Where else does your mind go with the Buddhist perspective, your Buddhist principles? Yeah,
the mentioning of unconditional love, that really speaks to me. And I reflect on my own experience too. I had fascination for animals when I was growing up. There's something very for some reason I was very struck by elephants. We have a lot of elephants back in Burma. And then whenever I look them in the eyes, in the elephant, they're it looks like they've been on this planet for a long time. And also that they're very wise, but also very sad at the same time, So for me to be able to connect with another human being or animal to another life comes from, as a Buddhist, my fundamental belief, the first noble truth is there is suffering. So that unconditional love enters into my heart when I realize that everybody is suffering. So that's a sense that I get whenever I look into the eyes of the elephant. They're like, yeah, we know, kind of that feeling that we know how you're feeling, but we have love available kind of thing. So that where my mind took me when you mentioned about unconditional love that is possible. We are suffering, but at the same time, we're not alone kind of feeling.
Exactly. That's 100% it. We had a group a couple months ago, and of course, we had it all written out. This is what we're going to do. This is how it's going to go. And one of the group members just really had a beautiful, release and experience. And she's like, I feel this horse's emotion. Every other horse here is fine, but this one does not want to be here. Like me, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be confined. I don't want to be made to be doing this work. Wow, I bet that recognition for this equine that you're feeling in yourself, I bet they would really, what can you tell yourself right now? Like, what could you say to them to help make them feel better if that's how you think they're feeling? And they went over and we did a breathing meditation, and they went over and they just shared that energy with their equine partner. And it was this collective feeling of ease. It was beautiful. That's the other thing I really love about working with equines too, is comfort, the attunement, the attachment, but then there's just being out in nature, there's this lack of dis-ease, just a centeredness, a groundedness. It's beautiful.
So the mindfulness or the meditation is probably sprinkled throughout the whole exercise of equine.
Yeah.
Are there certain populations that you really enjoy working with when it comes to equine, or does the equine-assisted therapy feel like this is a great clientele for this type of work? I think it can work for just about anything, but what do you think?
I agree with you wholeheartedly that it can work with anything, anyone, any mental health disorder, cerebral palsy, traumatic brain injury, stroke, all the stuff. I can just share with you what I'm learning about my equine partner is that depression and anxiety in adults seems to be his jam.
That's great.
Yep. Individuals that have trauma that are not fragmented and are not super disorganized, he really vibes with them too.
Neat.
Yeah.
Neat. So then it depends on the partner, is what you're saying.
It does in this situation for sure.
I guess it's mentioned in the yoga world about the prana, right? The pranayama, which is a yoga practice based on the breathing. But in our Buddhist tradition, we call it anapana, which is the process of breathing in and out. When I think of breath, it's not just about the oxygen, but it's the life force that comes in and out, which is always a reflection of how I'm feeling. And when I breathe in, there is something entering into my body as life force. And it can make some parts of my body pleasant, unpleasant, but it becomes like an opportunity to stay in tune with how am I maintaining the life force within me, What I was curious about was how is it reflected in the equines? Maybe like when they detect something from us, their own breathing and their own heartbeat changes as well, since they are reflecting. So you mentioned about the symbiotic relationship. Yeah, so that's the part that I'm curious about, like about their heartbeat and also their breathing.
Yeah, it is that exchange. So they will mirror that for sure. And then a lot of different styles of riding, they also factor in the breath as a way to communicate with their equine partner. So I think it's dressage riding signals when they breathe out for their equine partner to stop. So there is that, connectedness. One of the cool things about working with equines or some equine knowledge is that they can feel our heartbeat from 4 feet away. So if I am anxious and I'm having all of the physiological symptoms of anxiety, my equine partner is going to feel that. Okay. That doesn't mean that they're going to say, I'm out of here. This person's not safe. They can also sense if I'm coming in to hurt them or if I'm having my own experience. And once I can re-regulate, they can also mirror that back to me as a form of re-regulation.
So you can really help the clients, whether it's anxiety, trauma, mental health concerns, to begin to co-regulate and notice it.
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time. That's one of the biggest takeaways from the work, is this always getting back into a relaxed muscle body in partnership with equines.
So this is all being able to do that through breath work and meditation, and you have these other variables with these horses in real life. To be aware of that is wonderful.
I think that's one of the benefits of the work too, is sometimes we see therapeutic gains much quicker than traditional therapy because it's reinforced.
You see it. You
immediately.
Can't ignore it. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a neuronic connection. And then once that continues, a new neural pathway is, built, and people can really take on that experience and it becomes lived, something that they can achieve much quicker than they could before.
What are some of the challenges and limitations with equine? Accessibility could be one.
I would say that that's one of the drivers for this work is growing up Equines were not accessible to me. So being as someone who accepts Maryland Medicaid, I'd love to make this accessible for folks, for sure. I would say one of the biggest challenges that I run into is weather, and then also where my equine is, where my equine partner is that day. There's so much that goes into, I could wake up on the wrong side of the bed. You know what I mean? Maybe it was like raining heavily the night before, he didn't eat on time, or he's just not really feeling that well. So I think it's just having a partner that's an animal is always interesting.
In terms of group work, I often use the analogy, I might be a composer for a group, but I don't know where the chorus is going to go.
Exactly.
I can try to help compose and take it somewhere, but no, that sometimes the band takes it where it needs to, and I sit back.
Exactly.
Yeah, very neat. Well, tell us more about your counseling practice.
Bay Area Counseling and Consultation is a mental health group practice, and we're trauma informed from the front office to the billing department. Really diverse set of clinicians. I specialize in trauma, and we take all major insurances except for Aetna, Maryland Medicaid, Johns Hopkins, Cigna, Blue Cross and Blue Shield, TRICARE. I would say that, my colleagues in the practice are just really passionate about the work. So everyone is, we're all generalists in mental health, but we have our own niches that we really like, to work with and in. The majority of our services are telehealth.
And how do people find out about the equine work? Do you have specific groups that you run through the practice?
Yeah, I do a kids group once a month, and that is a DBT in partnership with equines. So we learn about DBT skills, and then we partner with our equines to practice those skills. I do a women's group once a month, and it's women in recovery, and that just builds on, the skills that we did the week before: mindfulness, character defects, what it means to let go, trust building, communication skills. And then myself and another colleague in the practice do the individual equine work, and we work with the folks, anxiety, depression, trauma, dual diagnosis.
Yeah, I'm still stuck on that healing journey, healing process. Sounds like it's something that complements other things too, because something's being revealed as you're interacting with the horse, and then are the patients also being observed in a way where a therapist is involved? Like you were talking about earlier, some examples that I noticed something in the horse or noticed something on you. What is it that's going on underneath? Which is probably that is not brought up if it's just a therapist and a patient,
Exactly.
because that person is not ready to open up, like closed off. But then when there's an animal, which is reflecting, there is no way of hiding it, which speed up the process, I guess. Yeah, so that's kind of unique to this equine, which is probably not possible through other means.
Yeah, it's really powerful. It's especially for what you're talking about too, because I think I said this earlier, but sometimes the therapeutic gains happen so much more quickly. You know what I mean? Because we have this partnership, it just kind of like brings it up and brings it out. Sometimes folks have a hard time with attachment and developing relationships, but not with our equine partner. So that kind of sparks something in them too. And then sometimes we have patients who are stuck with where they are in treatment. So when we would potentially refer them, maybe to a specialist and whatever, we can try equine-assisted psychotherapy to see if we can have a breakthrough. And usually we do, which is awesome.
It's such a powerful way to break barriers or resistance.
Yeah. Are there also, when you, first evaluate or see a patient where that's not a fit with an equine therapy, or that they're not ready for it yet, kind of thing? Because as I was reflecting earlier too, that it can be quite overwhelming, to see my own emotions in a animal reflecting. I'm like, I don't want to see how I'm feeling, yet. So are there any patients who are not ready?
Yeah, there's a ton of patients who aren't ready. I have a couple on my caseload now that are like, I really want to do this, and I can't wait to get you there because you're going to benefit so much from it, but we're not stable enough, for this kind of work yet. And a lot of that is understanding what my equine partner's central nervous system is also capable of. It's this dance, right? It's not just me and the patient.
It's energy work.
Exactly. But it's also acknowledging, like, we need to get to this much more place where you don't need to have a mastery of skills, but I need you to be able to apply them more. Or sometimes some folks in trauma, they're just too fragmented at the time, right? That we just need to work on stabilization just a little bit more. But we screen every patient too. So folks that stable on their medication, lack of active suicidality, not homicidal, no history of animal cruelty.
So I guess part of it is having a certain level of insight and awareness. But the other part is you're not just spewing your energy everywhere for the horses and things like that, for that quote unquote stabilization. Yeah.
And I think, and sometimes it happens. That's okay. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we get there and we're doing the work and it's all, coming out, and that's okay. We can always step outside of the ring. We can, do a breathing, we can take a walk and put some space, for our equine partner. And when that happens, that's fine. It's just making sure that we have enough insight before we go into it to understand each other and the relationship and the boundaries. To be able to take a break when we need it.
I do have another question, which might be a silly question, but over the years, I've realized that crying is a very healing thing. Do horses have ability to cry as well? So if you were to break down in front of a horse with all these emotions and you start crying, how do they react to it?
This is a great question. I don't know, yes or no, if horses can cry, but I know that they feel sadness. And there's a ton of research that shows that they feel sadness and can go through depression, but they'll come over and offer comfort. I've seen that. I've seen that personally. I've gone through that, experience myself and been comforted by an equine partner or been with a patient who's done the same thing. It's amazing.
In my limited experience, I don't know if I haven't seen a client or a group member not cry in equine therapy. Somehow these emotions become so, uprooted or just aware during equine therapy that it's, for a lot of people, it can be hard to, hide their emotions, wear that Kevlar, that winter jacket of, no, I'm fine. But somehow that energy transfer, I don't know what it is, but I don't know if I've limited experience, but the emotions come to the surface.
Yeah, I'll never see the horses the same after this conversation. Especially what was said earlier about, them not having prefrontal cortex, which sounds really inspiring for a meditator, that sense of self disappear, like in a very, very freeing way that you're just in the moment, feeling the feeling. Because we do suffer a lot from our own identity that, this is how I should be treated. This is how I should be feeling. This is me. This is me in the future. This is me from the past.
Exactly.
And they're like all these limited ways of identifying ourselves as this, individual. But like for horses, they're like, I'm just here.
No judgment, man. Exactly. I validate that. I think about that sometimes too, right? They're just in the moment. No judgment. I like your vibe. Cool. Let's keep going.
Let's do this. Well, thank you so much, Courtney. Is there anything else that you'd like to tell the audience about equine therapy that we haven't touched upon yet?
I think we hit on all the big things. I can't think of anything off the top of my head. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, this was fun.
Yeah, it was really fun.
Well, we could feel, it probably came across that we could feel the energy and the passion in this room, and the connectedness was a lot of fun for us doing this episode. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, horses are often viewed as powerful and intuitive creatures in the context of equine therapy, and known for their ability to connect with humans on a deep, emotional, and energetic, and as we learned today, spiritual level. Equine therapy, horses are regarded as sentient beings that can mirror and respond to human emotions and behaviors. Their presence and interactions can evoke profound experiences and insights for individuals participating in this type of therapy. The horse's non-judgmental nature, sensitivity, and ability to read human body language make them awesome, effective partners in the therapeutic interventions. The therapeutic relationship between human and horses in equine therapy can be transformative and often leads to personal growth, increased self-awareness, healing, and enhance emotional well-being. Horses can help individuals develop assertiveness, empathy, trust, empowerment, emotional regulation skills, and so much more I can't begin to name. I think this was just an amazing one of the reasons why we do this podcast, so that way we can learn and empower others to receive services and therapeutic modalities and connection with something like equine therapy and therapists like Courtney with her partner. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
As always, like, comment, share. And my name's Luke Du Bois. And
And this is all. See you guys next time.
Thanks so much.